Wait for it, and we're live. Hey, all you crazy sci-fi and fantasy fans. It's time for your daily dose of shenanigans over here at the Blasters and Blades podcast. Just a couple of nerdy veterans and one chaos coordinator geeking out over our science fiction passions and fantastical fantasies. A place where magic is king, the sky is the limit, and space is the place. We are the podcast that puts the fun in dysfunction. So without further ado, we're going to let our guests introduce themselves to our listeners and viewers at home. And first, we have Madam Katya the Awesome. I understand that is your true last name. So is that what Shatuk means? The Awesome? Is that how it translates?
That's the direct translation.
Okay, that makes sense. Jana tells me it's true, and I believe everything she tells me.
She is.
That's because you're a smart man.
Okay, and can you introduce yourself to our listeners and viewers at home?
Yeah, I'm Katya. I'm an executive editor at Book Cave. I'm an editor, graphic designer. That's
now, when you say editor, are you editing like the pictures that go out, the blog posts? Are you actually editing novels?
I do edit novels on the side. I edit blog posts. I write and edit blog posts. I edit the posts about the books that we post on. I edit basically everything on the site. I've edited.
Cool. So what is your training for the editing? Is that just something you picked up because you're a book nerd and you read a lot? Or...
I am a book nerd, but I did go to school for editing as well. My major is English language with a minor in editing from BYU.
That was a thing.
Yeah.
When I was an undergrad, I had at one point in time 4 majors, and my history advisor tells me that wasn't something to be proud of. It is just a failure to commit. When I came back from my deployment the first time, the Soldier Sailor Relief Act that says they couldn't kick me out and give away my scholarship did say they didn't have to extend it for a 4th year if I could graduate in 3. So they made me pick one. So I did not finish the history, the English one, because I stuck with the history. But I didn't know that there was a editing option.
Yeah.
That was the hardest part for me when I first started writing, was realizing that writing academic stuff and writing fiction are not the same. My first editor was like, JR, you're only allowed to use 3 commas in a sentence. Anything more, I'm going to beat you over the head with a stick. Because, in history papers, like 4, 5, 6 adjunct clauses is totally okay. The more convoluted, the more they like it.
Yeah. And the more complicated the words, right?
Absolutely. Sometimes we cheated and we had the thesaurus out just so we could keep the professors happy.
Yeah, you shouldn't do that with books.
No. It's generally not a way to make people like you. All right. And Jana, if you could introduce yourself, because we are going to use the alphabet and do this right.
Ooh, we're using the alphabet again. I'm Jana S. Brown. Most of you have heard from me before, but it's the same old. I write under the pen name Jenna Ray, and I write science fiction, fantasy, all of the weird and the wonderful with smoochies. But under Jana S. Brown, I also write nonfiction, and I work for Book Cave as one of their acceptance editors. So I am the first line of defense, so that anything that comes in that is not following the rules. Submission guidelines are a big deal. I'm sure we'll talk about those at some point. That aren't following the rules, or that we might find better or worse for our readers. I go through it first, and then I pass it up the line, and Katya does everything else. She and Rachel, they do all of the magic that makes it actually happen. My job is to read through the slush.
Now, if there's a cave, is there a cave troll somewhere around that you get to, have tea with?
Oh, we should have.
Oh, dragons. We are book dragons. Thank you.
Dragons. We're some dragons. That's right.
I guess dragons and caves go together too. We could do all of the things. They could all have their little, I don't know. It's Jana, so probably a Dr. Pepper party.
Darn straight. Dr. Pepper is the one and only.
Have you seen the new commercials for the berry Dr. Pepper that's floating around?
Yes, it's okay. The commercials are funnier than the soda is, but it's all right. My husband likes it.
Okay. Now, I do like vanilla Coke. So do you like vanilla Dr. Pepper? Is that a thing?
Yes, I'm very fond of vanilla Dr. Pepper, which they don't actually have as a brand. And so I make my own simple syrup and just squirt it in there. And that way I can have it as vanilla-y as I like it. And it makes it really...
Here's a funny story for you. When I was in college, I took a girl on a date to this movie theater that did food there too. And it was like, it had been around for like 100 years. It was the first movie theater opened in this town. So like it'd been around for a while. And they had vanilla Coke, and it was so good. I'd never had it before that I kept ordering refills, not realizing when you're adding pure vanilla extract, which is the way they do it, the old soda shoppy way, Like it's more expensive. So there were no free refills, and I had to leave. And I'm like, I had to call my mom. I'm like, Mom, can I borrow, whatever the dollar value was? She says, why? I'm like, I got refills on my Coke. And then I told her, and she never lets me forget it. Now, whenever I take her out to a restaurant, she's like, are you sure refills are free?
Nice.
It's been
I love
20
your mom.
years, and she still does it.
Oh my god.
Your mom is the best.
That's because she likes you more. It's okay. She likes everybody more, I think, sometimes. But speaking of moms, you did birth the awesome. So Miss Rachel Nunez, could you introduce yourself to your readers?
Yes, I'm Rachel Ann Nunish, and I am actually officially I'm the president of Book Cave.
You are. You're official.
I'm official, and I guess I'm also I'm also an author, but I don't write under my real name anymore. I write under a pen name, so I guess we'll talk about that in a future episode. But I do write science fiction and fantasy. In fact, I just finished space. Like a space opera, kind of. It's not really. It's like urban fantasy in space, actually. That's more.
You dared to combine them.
I didn't know that. I want to read this. It's new.
It follows Unbounded. Do you know when the last time I talked to David Farland, I was on his blog just right before he passed away, and I was in Florida, and I was like really sad and saying, I just don't know. I've never had writer's block, but I just don't really want to, and he goes, it's time to write your space book, Rachel. Or something like that. And so I kind of did it for him, Anyway.
That's awesome.
So back to Book Cave. I am kind of the dreamer, the one who came up with, let's do this and this and this. And so then my Katya's father and my husband is the programmer, and we had another programmer too, but they put it all together. And yeah, so the thing is I wouldn't take any of my 7 kids to a movie without researching it, but yet books are just sitting there. And so I thought, we're going to do this really cool thing with books so that, so that's who I am. I'm sort of the drive behind it. And I actually do less of the day-to-day now than I ever did. I mean, I'm writing blogs again for it as well. I don't know if you've been editing my blogs, Katya, have you? Anyway,
we'll talk later.
Uh-oh.
Did I hear that right? 7 kids?
I do. And Katya is which number are you? 3.
3.
I hope you found a hobby since then, because wow, that could get expensive.
No, it was writing. I've written 81 books. So no, I've kept busy.
That's an acceptable hobby to fill in, popping on more kids. We approve. I like to read, so.
Yeah.
So how did you decide, when you were looking to, so one of the things we listen to is we have a couple people that listen to the podcast, and then we'll jump into religion questions and get back to this. But we have several of the people that listen with their kids to the podcast. So I always have to warn, hey, this episode is not for you to listen to with them. And even when the books are mature, the conversation about it is not on this podcast because we try to be family friendly-ish. Sometimes I do cuss like a sailor, and that's an insult to sailors because the Army does it better. But one of the things we do ask every author is on a movie scale kind of rating, how would you rate it? Because people are always like, could I let my kids read this? We get that a lot with every. So is that what got you deciding to create the Book Cave? Because you were looking to figure out what you could let your family engage with?
Exactly. So what I've noticed with the whole indie publishing is that there became a lot of, in the old days, we had the publishers who were kind of the gatekeepers, and they managed to keep things pretty I don't want to say, generally speaking, in the old days, you wouldn't find more than 30 swear words in a book, okay, for example. There were exceptions. But nowadays, in some of the indie authors, it's we're talking 500. And you're almost like, well, are there any other words in the book? But and it really did. People were getting upset. I was getting upset. I have read some really great books, and then I'm just like, oh, stop it already. You sound like you're just like a 22-year-old who, I don't know what, hasn't learned how to speak properly because every other word. And it to me, it destroyed the story. So I thought, well, if I could tell if a book is good before, and if I didn't have to read it before giving it to my daughter. A friend of mine was at a conference one time, and it was a young adult conference, and she said that the very first thing the young adult authors did when they got up there is they said, "Oh yes, I put sex on the first page of my book," and nobody knows, because everybody says the young adult books are real. And this was 10 years ago, okay? And she goes, when she got up there, she said, "And I don't." She goes, "My books are just really funny and clean." And she was like the outcast, and she is really funny. She really is. It's Jeanette Rollison,
Oh, Jeanette's a doll.
She's amazing, an amazing writer. But anyway, she was shocked because she said these, and as she got to talking more with the authors, they said, the parents don't ever look what's in these books, and these kids just love this stuff, and we hook them right from the beginning. And I'm thinking, well, maybe parents for younger teens should have the right to know what's in these books. You don't let your 13-year-old go to an X-rated movie, do you? Not usually, but anyway.
One would hope not.
So I thought this would be great if we could actually rate all the books. And not only, but we knew there were so many books that we couldn't do it, which is why we have my book ratings part of this website where anybody can go and rate a book that they've read. And it's a community rating so that people will be able to say, hey, this book had this in it, because sometimes people disagree about what's really bad. I mean, one time I had this lady say, this is for all audiences. And I said, you have 200 swear words in this. I don't think a child of 4 should read it. And she's like, oh, okay. And so it just depends. And maybe in England, you don't care about certain swear words that we care about, and vice versa. I don't know.
That's definitely true with Australia too, because I'm working on a book that I'm writing with the now deceased James Ward, and one of the groups we're working with is Australian, and their military uses the C word much like ours uses the F word. But if I put that in there, it is going to trip all kinds of algorithms in Amazon that's going to make it smut, even if it's not. And so I realized that, like, normally I'm not one for sensitivity readers. I kind of just write where the muse goes, and people like it or they don't. But I was told to write a proper Australian. You need an insensitivity reader because I'm not making them crude enough in mine. But you can't do that and make it through the American censors. You just can't. So I feel that one. Although the difficult part was James has what he calls the angry mom rule. So he doesn't want to write anything that'll make the moms of the kids engaging with his content come after him. So balancing it is definitely harder than I thought. I had to break out that thesaurus we talked about in the pre-show to use some words other than the way the Army as I knew it spoke.
That was a good use of it.
Yep.
Yeah, although we have words above the cuss words, because if you ever hear your first sergeant or sergeant major say behoove, it behooves you, somebody's about to die. That's when it gets serious.
You're in trouble.
That's the word that's like when your mom uses your middle name. That's when it's like, yeah, you done messed up. What? All right.
Hey, for the record, I didn't do that because her name was
Her name.
Her middle name is Rachel.
Yeah, that does get kind of tricky when you're calling your own name. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, that would get confusing. But you got to have a hobby.
I did it with others, yes.
Yeah, you can do what George Foreman does and names
I never got in trouble.
All boys and girls. He named them all George Foreman and gave him different middle names. So that way, if he messed up, George, and they all had to come.
Wow.
I don't think most wives would let you get away with that, but when you have George Foreman grill money, I guess you can kind of call the shots.
You do what you want.
Pretty much. So the next part of the introduction, dear listener, dear viewer at home, is how we found them. So this is one that Jana brought to our attention, and because we've always, like I mentioned just a few minutes ago, we've always talked about how would you rate things, because the families would want to know what's okay for their kid. So when she told me about you guys, kind of had to make this happen.
Yeah.
But
I volunteered.
Yeah, she volunteered as tribute. Before we dive deeper, though, we do have to ask you the religion questions, Rachel and Katya. So are you ready for this?
Oh, I think maybe.
All right. There are wrong answers. She will judge you silently. So,
As long as it's
Star Wars,
silent.
Star Trek, or Firefly? Katya, you get to go first.
Firefly.
Okay. Is there
Not
anything
really fan of the others. I'm sorry, all you Star Wars fans. I just don't like them.
You don't like space wizards?
I just don't like the stories, especially the later ones. Like, I haven't even finished watching all of them. I was just like,
Okay, which ones have you watched? Because if you watched the first 3, that counts.
I have seen the first 3. Yes.
Okay, well then you've watched them all. Everything
Okay.
else is just noise.
Well, if that's the way you define it, then yeah,
Yes.
that's fine.
A lot of the books were amazing too. They used to be lore, but now they're considered, I guess, greater legends. Yeah, those were
Yeah,
some
the
really good ones.
Timothy Zahn, and those were some good books.
Rogue Commando or Clone Commandos and Rogue Squadron and X-Wing and like some really good stuff out there.
I'll have to look. I'm more of
Yeah.
a fantasy fan, so I haven't read a lot of sci-fi, but I'll look.
I mean, basically they're writing space fantasy these days, so you could find some. I
yeah.
would argue that some of that's starting to get to that, some of the Star Wars stuff. But what about you, Miss Rachel? Star Wars, Star Trek, or Firefly?
You know, my earliest memories as a child was sitting on the couch with a big bowl of popcorn and all my brothers and sisters, you know, heaped on each other watching Star Trek with my parents. I love the older Star Trek. I mean, the first, maybe was it 3 of them, like you said? And or were you talking Star Wars?
Star Wars is the first 3 movies. Star Trek
Yes.
has the original series, the Next Generation. They got the Below Decks. What is it? Star STD.
Deep Space Nine. There's a lot of them.
Yeah, there's
So
several of
I
those.
watched all of those, but I don't watch the serialized ones that they have now, the current ones or the cartoons. I watched all the Picard ones, the new ones that they did of him, and I love them all. And I love Star Wars. I love the original 3. I even liked most of the other ones, and I love Firefly, and I adore Stargate. I watched all 14.
Oh my goodness, you were amazing. We just became best
You
friends.
introduced one?
I love it.
I would have chosen Stargate.
No, yes,
cheated.
I own all 10 seasons of Stargate.
Me
SG1,
too.
and I own all 4 of Stargate Atlantis and all the extra movies. Or the 2
Okay,
extra.
how do you feel about Stargate Universe?
Oh, I even watched that. I don't own those.
Did you like them?
I don't think they finished it. It just didn't seem finished to me. Did it to you?
So you're right. They were good. They promised us an ending with the graphic novel. So I spent $40 to buy the hardcover on launch day. Cliffhanger on that one too, and they never finished it. Those jerks.
Oh,
I'm still
rude.
bitter.
No, I was really
bitter.
disappointed that they didn't finish. I was so excited, and they didn't finish it. And so I
That
was
is
just
why
like,
we
whatever.
say Fox Entertainment is where good shows go to die.
Tis sad but true.
Probably.
Because they killed Terra Nova too, which had the dinosaurs.
Mhm.
So sad.
Yeah.
That one I watched with the kids. It was great. Dinosaurs, sci-fi. I got a little something. They got a little something. It was like winning, but no, they killed it. So, okay, and because we are polytheistic here at the Blasters and Blades podcast, Game of Thrones, The Wheel of Time, or Chronicles of Narnia. Rachel, you get to answer first this time.
Wheel of Time, Chronicles of Narnia, and what was the other one?
Game of Thrones.
I would have to say, I don't know. I like the Chronicles of Narnia. I think those are great. I'm sorry, I'm not really a fan of what was it again?
Game of Thrones.
Game of Thrones. I never really got into it. And maybe I should, because maybe I would really love it. I don't know. Do you?
It's very grimdark. They make you like somebody and then they kill them. That's the show.
Oh,
You like
okay.
them,
So
they're
I've
dead.
got a
You
little
like
bit
them,
of
you're dead.
romantic in me, and I don't like when everybody dies. My husband and I watched a show the other day where every single main character died, and we looked at each other and we're like, "Oh, that happened." So I would have to say of those, what was the third one?
The Wheel of
Can you
Time
tell I
by
can't
Robert Jordan.
Oh, I like the Wheel of Time, but let me tell you, I read the first ones, like 5 or 6 of them when I was younger, and then he didn't come out with them for a while, it seemed like, and so I lost track of it. So I confess I need to read like the whole series, but when I started, like the first 100 pages was like repeat, and so I guess you kind of thumb through those and find out where the plot begins. Do you know what I'm saying? Don't they do that? I mean, am I the only one that thinks so?
They're slow.
They're slow. Yeah, he's a slow
They
build.
seem like they should. Yeah. So I would say a different book, but I'm going to think what kind, which one. I mean, like I really, for instance, I loved Mistborn, the very first one, and then I didn't like the third one as well. And did you like Mistborn? Were you going to say that?
I'm just laughing how you're like those options. No, here's my option.
I mean,
That's okay. You're allowed to do that here.
Wanted. Okay, well, there's this
That's
one
really-
series by this urban fantasy author.
I like that one too. But that's another show.
That's another show.
Yeah, we could definitely do that show too. That's totally okay. But yeah, I don't know. Fantasy, there's different kinds, and it really depends on what you're looking for in your fantasy story. Like Wheel of Time, very grim dark, or not Wheel of Time. Excuse me. Game of Thrones is very grim dark. Wheel of Time's very slow burn. The TV series, at least for me, because I had Netflix or no, is that Netflix or Amazon? I have both, but whichever one, I watched the first season.
Amazon Prime.
Yeah, and after having seen Lord of the Rings, the movie, where I could see what they could do with proper set and costuming, everything after that doesn't rise to that level just feels like you're watching the high school version of the theater production. And so the costuming on Wheel of Time it made it hard for me to take it seriously. But the plot was okay. Like they had a couple scenes, like they did the same thing with Rings of Power. You have a couple scenes where it's very clear they have 12 actors in costume, and then they screen grab them and put them all around. And I'm like, it's like watching a Where's Waldo, where you could see the same guy a bunch of times. Like, no. Like you got to rise to the level of Lord of the Rings for TV, or it just doesn't work.
True.
He raised the bar too
Well,
high.
what about that series? I can't even remember the name. You guys are going to remind me. Because see, I'm older than you guys, so I have more like in my mind, so more links. But the White Gold Wielder, do you remember that one? The one where the guy has the disease, the disease where your skin falls off. Now I'm like drawing another.
You're talking about leprosy?
Yeah, he has leprosy, and he faints or whatever, and he goes into this other world, like. And he's got these powers because of it, and he's the white gold ring because he has his wedding ring, and it's a whole series. Stephen R. Donaldson. Anyway, I thought that was a good series.
Yes, I can't think of it.
Way beyond you, way before your guys' time, I guess. I'm sorry.
Yeah,
go read it.
No, I know which one you're talking about. It's not. Is it Thomas Covenant?
Yes, that was it. How did
Yes,
you know?
yes. Because I looked up Donaldson and started going through the titles, and I'm like, yep, that's the one that connects with the story in my brain. Because I've read it.
Most of the time, I can go to Google and the AI that runs it, and I'll type in like just the bare bones, and it can find with that.
Wow.
Like this one, it just kept wanting to give me every medical definition and medical thing about leprosy, and I'm just like, okay, I broke Google. So that didn't work for me.
You can't break
I
AI.
learned more about leprosy in that than I did actually like researching it.
See, I knew way too much about it, but I was a young boy once, and so like the Crusades sounded cool, like knights fighting, whatever. And there was now I'm gonna draw a blank, but one of the knight orders was for people with leprosy, and that's why they wear the mask.
Mm-hmm.
And since if they're dying of leprosy anyway, why not go out with a bang for Jesus, I guess.
Yeah.
Why not? Yeah.
They were contemporary to the Knights Templar, which, of course, every conspiracy theory starts with. So,
because it's fun.
Absolutely. I mean, Dan Brown made it popular with his series that every historian hates. So we won't name it. But instead, we're going to ask Miss Katya what hers is. So we've got Wheel of Time, Chronicles of Narnia, or Game of Thrones.
Or all these choices suck and you can choose something else.
Wheel Time.
She's a big fan.
I'm just a fan of fantasy with very complex world and magic. So like Brandon Sanderson's my favorite in that. But Wheel of Time is a close second, especially since he finished it. So I'll go with
Okay. Setting the bar very high. Finished is good.
Yes.
That's the other reason I never. That's the one I don't like grimdarks. I didn't really get into the Game of Thrones show on HBO, and I won't start a series I know I'll never get an ending to because that would just drive me bonkers. So I just I wonder if Brandon Sanderson will write the end for George R. R. Martin.
Ew, no.
Somebody's got to give us the ending, right?
Oh.
HBO already did at least an ending, so
I heard it
no,
wasn't good
it's
though.
just that's what I've heard as well. It's such a dark world that I don't think that it would mesh with Sanderson's style. I think that there would be a struggle to bring those two things together because it is very, very, very dark and even when Sanderson's takes us to dark places, there's hope there and there's heroes that you can cheer for that are not going to turn out to be very, very terrible people. And a lot of Game of Thrones is terrible people. But, it works for a lot of audiences, but I don't see Sanderson
So
wanting to
first
finish
off,
that way.
though, the HBO version of Game of Thrones gave us 2 amazing bloopers that is now canon that Starbucks exists in Westeros.
Oh, yes,
Because
that's
that
true.
one blooper. And having been through the editing process on the writing side, you realize how many people's eyeballs go through each product. So when that comma is there that's extra, it really wanted to be there. The same is true for film, right? Like there were several layers where people missed that it's there. So that coffee cup just wanted to be there because I guess we just needed to know there was a Starbucks in Westeros.
That's true.
And the bottled water company, whose name I don't remember because the logos for those aren't as iconic. But yeah, there was the last season had one of the actors' coffee cup was caught in the scene and then their bottled water as well.
Yeah, they just missed things. It's like, oh dear.
I just think is well. I mean, it was cold, so I imagine it was just like trying to stay warm. They had the coffee right there to keep them, and we assume it was coffee they were drinking. Could have been tea, could have been hot chocolate, but it's Starbucks cup. So, and I just remembered it just came to me. And it was the Order of Saint Lazarus, which was the lepers.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I don't know why my mind blanked on that, but okay. So, with all of that out there, Katya picked. Nobody picked Rick Riordan. I expected that you might go there when you talked fantasy, because you're the right age for it. The Rick Riordan Lightning Thief, Percy Jackson.
I like Percy Jackson. It's just a little bit too simple for me. I liked it though. I read them all. And
it was assigned in my 13-year-old daughter's
archive. Like, come on. I need books this big.
Door stoppers.
Okay, so you want the book to double as a weapon or a bullet stopper?
Yes. Absolutely.
Okay.
What's the point otherwise?
I have one that I did an anthology that was so big we had to like take the font down to 10 and expand the margins because I said yes too much. That's why I'm not allowed to pick the anthology entries anymore because I said yes to everything because I liked everything. But as part of that, I accidentally dropped that book on my foot once, and I mean I hit notes I didn't know were there. It hurt that much. I'm just saying those books can get big. So
you can count on it in a pinch.
That's true, though. I mean, if I put it in my shirt and anybody shoots me, I'm going to live. It could be like my secret weapon.
It's fine.
I mean, I'll be just like, I probably won't even make it halfway through. I wonder if the bullet learns anything through osmosis as it goes through the book. We'll have to do some more research. All right. With that, before we start talking about the book cave, we're going to pause for a moment while we shamelessly shill for the woman this time. Uh-oh, where is it? Ready for it? Are you ready for this, Jenna?
Yep. Press the button.
The necromantic magic of the Great Lich has held sway over the world for 100 years. Can a young knight of the god of death and the last priestess of the goddess of life destroy him before their homeland falls? The only survivor of his convoy, journeyman knight Darian, is entrusted with an ancient scroll and one mission. Return the scroll to the High Temple in Hothan, no matter the cost. He never expected that journey to include stumbling onto the last healer in the world. Now he must take not only the scroll but the woman across the kingdom to safety, each step dogged by the relentless undead. Death's Knight, Book 1 in the completed War of the Lich series by Matthew T. Summers and Jenna Ray.
All right.
Hey, I know that book.
Yeah, I bet you know that person. Thanks for sticking with us through that commercial interlude, dear listener, dear reader, dear viewer at home. So, obviously, we're here to talk about Book Cave, and obviously, it has features because anything that is geared towards readers has features for authors. It's kind of they go hand in hand. Someone has to write the books for the readers to read. But let's keep our answers focused on the reader experience. So, what is Book Cave?
Is this a raise our hand thing or?
No, you can. This is
No, it's-
like just a discussion. I should have gone over that in the pre-show. I am so sorry.
Yeah, that's like a cage match. It's which one of us says things first, and we try not to talk over each other too much because then when you're listening to it in the car, we start sounding like gobbledygooks. So, but you guys go.
Go ahead, Mom.
Yeah, it's your brainchild, Rachel.
You're used to this pitch, right?
So Book Cave is probably, well, it is the most detailed rating system for books. I mean, that's what we use on our site. And so what we do is when authors are going to have a promotion or a discount on any retailer, then they'll let us know, and then we will send out the email to the reader and say, hey, this book is on sale and this is what's rated and this is what's in it. So it's detailed. So it will say not only is this rated for this level, like say moderate, but it's rated for that because of language or because of intimacy or because of or whatever. And so we have a very detailed explanation, or violence or cursing or whatever. And so anything that you like on it, you can say. So some people will say they want all the books, but then maybe they'll look through and say, oh, I can't stand the cursing, so I won't get this book. But it's only rated that for intimacy or romance, then I don't mind, So you can pick and choose whatever you want as a reader. We believe the reader should be the boss. And honestly, it helps authors too, because if you're a reader and you read a book and you really think, oh, this book, I wish I would have known. I've actually taken books back to the store before when they were they seemed like they weren't like, they were misleading or whatever. And so I thought, well, that would be good that the reader can do that, just choose beforehand. Then they can read a great review and it helps everybody, So
Yeah, so we're like BookBub, but a little bit smaller because nobody is as big as BookBub is. But we give all that extra information because we're kind of a matchmaking service. We want the right readers to find the books that they really want, and we do talk about deciding there's content in there you don't want, but it also works in that some people say, hey, I really love romance with a lot of spice in it, and it tells them that information too. So we don't have to make a moral judgment for our readers because, like Rachel says, the readers get to choose. They need to be the ones in charge of what they read, but it tells them, hey, here's a book that's going to have spicy romance. Here's one that's going to not be that. The decision is yours. And then for authors, it helps them to get that reach out there and to make it so that more people can find their books and more of the right readers can find their books. Because going out to 1 million people is great, but if only 10 of those 1 million people are your target audience, then that's not such a great use of your funds versus being able to much more closely match. These are the readers that want what you're putting out, and then they're going to come back and read the rest of your series. They're going to do those things because it's a better match.
Are you quoting my ending about the right readers find the right books?
That's actually our saying that's our saying.
That's been since I was
Again.
So before we were the Blasters and Blades podcast, we were the Sci-Fi Shenanigans, and that was our ending pitch, helping the right readers find the right books. Because
that's funny.
We've been using that as part of our our call to action at the end of every podcast is to ask them to go out and review what they read and what they like, because it matters,
It does.
And to remind them that when you review something, you're mostly talking to other readers, not to the author, because not all authors read their reviews. And so you're talking to the other people engaging in content. So that's been our pitch since 2016 when we started podcasting.
We predate you.
And what Janice said was really something very good, because we don't judge. We don't care what's in your book. We only want to describe it and then let the reader choose.
And it's great for readers because like all the books are super discounted that we send out. So they're like 99 cents or free. They're ebooks. So you can get lots of great books and you know what's in them. And then you can fill up your e-reader. And I'm never low on something to read. I've always got lots of great books to read because of Book Cave.
So is it one of those sites that's Amazon exclusive, or does it cover content that's wide as well?
Both. Yeah, we prefer wide because a lot of readers are not on Amazon anymore, but we take both.
Okay.
Yeah, and sadly, Oh, I'm just going to say, sadly, most authors it seems like so many authors are exclusive with Amazon.
It's the KU.
So,
For some
there's
genres,
that.
it's just that's where they make most of their money, so that's where they stay.
Mhm.
Yeah, I get why, but
Yeah.
I don't know. I try to reach readers wherever they are. So if that means they're off of Amazon, I want them to.
Mhm.
So do you do exclusively ebooks, or do you also feature like when paperbacks are going on sale and sales for those? Because some people still like Dead Tree editions.
This is exciting. We have new stuff. Tell him.
I was not
I
prepped for
got
any of this.
excited. I got excited when I saw this come through. Tony didn't tell me it was coming through until one day I log in to do my work, and suddenly my little dashboard that used to be just this big, suddenly I've got scroll. And I'm like, what have we done? And they went, you did a cool thing. So tell them the cool thing.
Yes, mostly ebooks, but we've just recently added audiobooks as well. So we do.
That is awesome. That was my next question. But what about print? Is that going to advertising those sales at some point?
Maybe in the future. Currently, no.
We do have the link on. So every book that we advertise also gets a permanent home on my book and the book rating site. It's still on. It's on my book cave, but and that has the ebook and the all of it, the ebook, the audio, and the print. So people can still go and browse. Readers can go to the ratings page and they can browse all the books that we ever had, and they can go and click on and see all the print books too. But we don't advertise if they're on sale yet. No, because the internet is such a thing, like, okay, there's the book, let's buy it, click, it's on my thing, I'm reading it. So it's a lot different when you have to say, okay, I gotta order the book and then it's gotta come, and then so we haven't figured out how to do that yet.
It's also harder to do because the price of paper affects the cost of print books. And then some people are really picky, like the Amazon print on demand books aren't the same quality as like you get from Ingram Sparks, and some readers care. So there's a lot of nuance in that. I get that. Now,
and the discounts are all over the place because we always try to put out discounted things because it's a great way to connect readers. And you're willing to take a risk on a 99-cent ebook on somebody that you've never read before in a different way than you are even a $12 paperback, which might be half off of their $24 print price, but that's still asking a lot more. So it's a barrier for a lot of readers. And so that way, if they like the ebook, and since it takes it to like the various distributor pages, if you go there because you want the ebook and then you see the prints on sale, you're on the sales page. They can still make that click through.
Yeah. I've been known to get the first book free because some authors are really good drug dealers. And then I had to buy the whole series because I liked it. And I have been known to send authors a copy of the screen grab of the bill that I just bought all of them. And I'm like, you better let your wife supersize it because I just gave you a lot of money. You can get the large combo meal tonight, dang it.
Tonight.
Exactly.
I like that.
So for the audiobook, is that something that you're just advertising sales, or just that they exist at all? Because there are precious few places for people to go to find discoverability on audiobooks, both as a creator and as someone like me who listens to audiobooks.
They don't have to necessarily be on sale, but they do have to be a good price. So we've set that at $6.99 and below. So all those that have been,
does that include
have been on sale.
Places that will do, because like if you use the Audible, their standard credit, which is one book, is like 14 something. If you get it paired, you can sometimes do it 12 to 13. So do you factor in paired price or standalone for the audiobook?
Just standalone. So most people don't do Audible because they don't allow you to discount it. So it's mostly.
They also don't allow you to download it. Some people are starting to care about do I actually own this or am I leasing it? That's become a big thing for readers.
Yeah. So it's like mostly like Spotify and Chirp and some YouTube.
Probably some Book Funnel.
No, we actually Book Funnel is actually a competitor because we do a similar service. So
we also have a magnet service. Yes, we do. And so we haven't gotten to that yet. But one of the things that's interesting in YouTube, I have several author friends who publish their books for free, or they do the audiobooks on YouTube, and then they get views and they get ads and they make a lot more money than they do with their other audio. But that doesn't always happen, just depends. So we're hoping to help authors reach out and grab, more readers or listeners also. So we're excited about this. I'm excited to try some.
Yeah.
Okay. So you don't do that. So does that mean if you're a competitor for BookFunnel, does that mean you have an app that people download where they can listen to those on the go or read the book on the go, much like the Kindle app or the BookFunnel app?
Right now we just do ebooks, but we haven't we just barely added audiobooks to our retail deals. So we have not yet looked at adding audiobooks to our downloadable deals, but we do allow readers to directly download ebooks from our site and from our app.
But so you do have an app so they could access it on their phone or their tablet to read
download it. So then it puts it on their reader app. It's kind of like a bridge.
So if their only reader app is BookFunnel, which probably wouldn't go over to because it's your competitor, or Kindle, which is it's a specific process to get it on your Kindle e-reader. What e-reader do you send people to use?
They can get it on their Kindle.
They can?
But all they need is the Mobi, and then they can it'll send it over to their Kindle app. And if I don't know what the BookFunnel app takes, but if it takes an EPUB, theoretically it could just send it over there. They'd have to open it in the app.
Yeah, you can open it in iBooks. You can open it in all sorts of things. So many of the different apps are just set up to take an EPUB. And so if you've got an EPUB, if you've got an older one and you've got the Mobi on it, as long as you've got the file, they sideload really easily. I open stuff on my iPad all the time, and it's, what do we want to open it in today? We will go into iBooks because I can. So we try to make it into something that's easy to sideload, even if it's not the specific, Kindle app or whatever else.
So does your app allow readership, or is that just when you say app, do you just mean your website? I'm thinking like an app you add to your.
We do have an app that you can download on Google Play. Yeah.
It just helps you send it to the right app to read it.
It's an app that makes.
So it's a bridge app. I got it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes,
okay.
that.
You're talking to someone who, for all I write sci-fi, I'm like an idiot when it comes to technology. So speak to me like I'm your 90-year-old grandpa. So you can download.
He was pretty smart.
Ooh, okay. So maybe your 150-year-old great grandpa. I don't know.
There we go.
So you can download the EPUB is it EPUB or Mobi, or do you only offer the one? Because some places will do both.
We offer both, because if you're sideloading onto your Kindle, it still requires a Mobi. Even though Kindle takes EPUBs when you're publishing, their devices still need.
I'm sensing some sass in that response. Okay.
They're like, we're going to take EPUBs now, but they're actually converting it to Mobi on the back end.
And who knows if they're doing a good job? It really bothers me.
It's cool. All right. So will it sideload for people that use Smashwords? Will it sideload to that for them? Yeah,
it should. Yeah, any device, any app.
All right. So
as long as it'll open the file type.
So I'm assuming that it's the download, the DRMO is not there, so you can do that, right? If you're buying it from you guys.
Right.
Well, okay. And we don't sell them there. All the ones that we have direct. So we have two services for authors, basically, since, it's for readers as well. But one that all the links that you receive every day go to some retailer that, a normal, like for the Kindle or the Nook or, whatever. Amazon, Barnes and Noble, let's see what else. Apple.
Kobo, Google Plus.
Yes. All of these.
Smashwords. We have the list.
And so all of those, I think I forgot to add Smashwords to that list I sent you, Jana. And but yeah, so and then the other thing we have is authors will directly upload their books that they want to give for free. Usually they'll ask you to join their newsletter, or some of them don't. And then readers can download directly from our site. And there's no money involved because we do not collect money at any point from readers. They either pay Amazon or Nook or, Barnes and Noble, or they just get it free directly from the author. We're just the go-between from the author. So,
but I would love to add audiobooks to that. We haven't looked at that yet.
Yes, I when he said that, I thought, why did I not dream that up? I mean, it was just like
Dream woman.
I've been wanting to do the audio for a long time, and we finally had this meeting. And I'm like, we need to do the audio, and so all of a sudden it's done now. And I'm sorry, Jana, you didn't even. I thought you knew.
No, I saw the thing that says it's coming, but I love Tony, but sometimes he'll do this to me that he's back there coding and doing all of his things, and suddenly stuff just pops open, and I'm like, what is this new thing? And sometimes I can just figure it out, and then other times I'm racing over to the Slack channel going, what changed? I don't dare touch anything. I don't want to break it. And I'm sure he thinks I'm ridiculous when I do that, but I was a software quality assurance engineer for years. And so it's kind of built into you that you really want to go and play with things, but you have to make sure that the programmer knows you're playing with things, because if you break it, then you've got to be able to get a hold of them to say, I've just broken it and now I can't upload covers anymore, which happened to us recently where it was like, I can't upload covers anymore. I don't know what I did.
Oh, yeah, that's
he figured it
right.
out because Tony's brilliant. But
yeah,
yeah,
we did do testing. We did do testing. We'll have to include her in the testing next time because
yep, I can totally do that.
But sometimes you're so busy with your, you've got a lot.
I do keep her on this podcast a lot. I mean, she practically lives in that chair.
Fault.
It's my fault.
It's true. I do live in this chair. That's why this chair now has me-shaped grooves in it. My husband sat in it the other day and he's like, this chair has conformed to you. And it's like, yes, but your chair has too, because he works down in the basement. And like, yeah, we both have the chairs that have taken on our particular figure.
Do you ever let him out of the basement? I mean, is this a cry for help for him?
No, he's fine.
Okay.
I let him out of the basement and I send him to the kitchen where he bakes bread for me. So I'm keeping him forever.
Sourdough? Apparently that's all the rage. I actually like sourdough, but it's all the rage right now.
He's doing artisan loaves that are like a sourdough, but you don't have a starter.
Okay.
It's from a guy who has a book on 5-minute bread. And the whole idea is that you take, he's got this big Tupperware thing, and you mix together flour, flour, water, salt, yeast, the very, very basics of bread. And in the book, it gives you the proportions. So this is very scientific. He has to put it on the scale. He measures everything by the scale. You mix it all up really good, clamp a lid on it, let it sit for 2 hours, and then you shove it in your refrigerator. And the amount that's in there is enough for 4 small loaves. And when you want a loaf, then you pull it out of the fridge, you reach in and grab a wad of dough that is the size that you want, roll it around in flour a little bit, let it proof until it poofs up, and then you bake it. And it makes this really, really beautiful bread that's got a nice crusty outside and a tender inside. And my daughter, who is a bread snob, because, she's 12, so white bread is all the thing. I failed as a mother. But she loves Dad's artisan dough, and he's just like, yeah, I found something that she'll eat that is not white bread. And so he makes these little loaves for us, and they're delicious and amazing.
I need this.
Okay.
Send it to
yes,
me.
I will. I'll send you the information because it is the easiest bread making ever, because literally it just sits in your fridge and then you pull out a wad and say, I want to have bread in about an hour because it has to bench press for 30 minutes. And then you put it into the oven and you bake it, and it's amazing and lovely. And so that's what he's out there doing is I can smell the bread.
I really need the listeners to understand that today, when we became the Foodcast yet again, it wasn't me this time.
It's always me. I totally accept this. This is my job on this podcast, is to drive us into places where we talk about delicious things.
The good thing is you reminded me we didn't do the last and most important 2 religion questions. So we're going to pause. We're going to do that again. And then we'll get back to talking more about their website. So we got like an intermission. If anyone needs to pause it and run while we ask the most important questions of the show that I somehow forgot. And I will fire myself. You know what? I'm cutting my pay in half for this.
Whoa. Well, pause it and go get some bread with ham and cheese on it.
Okay. Katya, are you ready for this?
It's nothing, carry the nothing, divided by nothing.
I'm ready.
All right. So one of the crying shames of adulthood is we stop asking each other the important questions. So we're bringing this back by popular demand. But what is your favorite dinosaur?
I'm not a dinosaur person. So when it comes to strange creatures, I would definitely choose a mythical beast like a dragon, maybe a griffin. Is that all right?
Dragons are related.
They're both large and fierce, sharp teeth,
and scaly, sort of. And
so you're old enough that you would have seen The Land Before Time, and you didn't have a favorite dinosaur from that cartoon, not even Littlefoot?
that movie is kind of scary for kids. I don't know.
I loved it.
Mom.
It's early trauma bonding.
So
okay,
actually,
I'm not over it.
there's 2 future episodes we're going to do. One of them is the IPs that shaped us. So the franchises, the properties that shaped us. And the other one is, we don't know what we're going to call it yet, but we've talked about it in the back chat for a while now, is the IPs like that gave us trauma that we need to pass it on because dang it, we suffered. They should, like, I'm sorry, they have to read Bridge to Terabithia because they have to have their soul ripped out of their chest.
Right
and
out
where
of
the
their
red fern grows for the same exact reason.
So sad.
Yes. There are certain books that we've never read to my daughter, and I don't think we can. My husband flat refuses to read Charlotte's Web. He's like, no, I'm not doing this. You can't make me. And she owns it because she has some of my books, and she's like, we should read this book when we read together as a family. And he's like, nope. If you are going to experience that trauma, you're going to experience on your own because I am not reading that book. It's like, oh wow, that did a
Well, I
thing.
come from a farming family, so when I was trying to read Charlotte's Web as a youngin, my grandfather looked over and said, oh, JR, are you reading that book about bacon? Okay. And I looked at him and I looked at the book and I'm like, I'm done. Put it down and moved on to the next thing. It was a book about bacon. And I like bacon too much to ruin it with a book. So,
You're not taking my
All
mom
right.
bacon.
Rachel, favorite dinosaur?
Okay, so you can tell we're family because I also dragons and unicorns. But if I have to pick a dinosaur, it's got to be the T-Rex because he's like the king of everything, you know. Anyway, and how
it's the
about King
dinosaur that
Kong,
gives
by
you
the
lots
way,
of
and
movies.
Godzilla? Those are pretty
Yeah,
good too.
there you go.
What about
Godzilla is
the
arguably a dinosaur.
Have
one
you
in
guys seen
Jurassic
have you
Park?
guys seen the new Godzilla, King Kong versus Godzilla and stuff? Those movies that are out. I just really liked them. My daughters are like, "That's so corny." I'm like, "I don't care."
That's why it's
So fun.
All right. Well, I mean, no one's
But
perfect.
T-Rex
So
is so scary. He's the
The
king.
raptor. Those are scary
Yes.
too, right?
yes,
Oh,
Raptor,
yeah,
we will
those are
take it.
real. They're smaller.
Yeah, but they're clever, right?
Okay.
At least that's what I was taught from movies.
Okay, what about the flies? Let's like that one the best because
Oh, the
what are they-
pterodactyls,
Yes, because
Oh,
then
yeah.
they can get away.
pterodons.
They just leave.
It's true. It's true. They just
So is
leave.
the dragon. There we go.
Yeah, there you go. Back to dragons.
Back to dragons.
We will take it.
Dragon.
I mean, it's hard to get mad at dragons, so we're gonna move on. All right, and because we are civilized human beings here at the Blasters and Blades podcast, we are no longer knuckle dragging troglodytes. Coffee or tea, and how do you take it, Katya?
Hot chocolate with lots of chocolate and whipped cream. Sorry, I don't
Oh,
drink
yum.
tea.
Whipped cream.
I tried tea. My husband's tried to convince me, and it just tastes like weird flavored water.
So no bean water and no leaf water for you. Just hot chocolate.
pour
Have you at
lots of
least
chocolate
tried the European sipping chocolate?
I actually made something. I think it's the same thing. It was a little too rich for me, but then I put lots of whipped cream in it, and it was really good.
Yeah.
It was like eating a
Well,
chocolate
It's
bar.
European sipping chocolate. It's like hot chocolate. If you made it so thick, you have to cut it with a knife, and so sweet you need a diabetic alert bracelet before you
Yeah,
drink
it's like
it.
melted. Like take a
Liquid
chocolate bar
chocolate,
and melt
basically.
it.
Pretty much. That is basically it in
A
a
little
nutshell.
bit of whipping cream.
And if the Europeans get too mad, we'll just kick them out of the country and throw their tea in the harbor again. We'll be good. I've got like 12 listeners in the United Kingdoms, and I'm sure I will get hate mail from all of them. All right, so Rachel, coffee or tea?
I like ground ginger, and so what I do is I heat up some water and put some ground ginger in it, a little bit of stevia, and that's what I drink, and it helps my digestion.
So hot ginger ale, basically.
It's
a ginger tea.
They say it's ginger tea, but it doesn't have any. It's not really tea. I mean, it's not, but it seems like tea. But my real go-to is like 70% dark chocolate bars.
There we go.
So you like the high cacao? Do you go higher than 70?
72 is the highest I go. I don't really like it beyond that because after that, it doesn't seem to melt in your mouth. You know, it just
gets bitter too.
Just like
Meltability
there, and I'm just like, yeah.
So a friend of mine is an author. Her and her husband and I bond over our love of bagpipes because I used to play. and I really should start again. But so they were passing through, but they had gone to Hershey, Pennsylvania, to the Hershey Park. And so you can do a tour where they make the chocolate. So they brought us some on their way down that had been made literally that morning. They drove because they were on their way home to Florida anyway. And they stopped off and they gave me this bag of Hershey's chocolate. It had been made that morning. You really can taste the difference when it's fresh. And so because I'm civilized, my niece and I, we would try a bite of the chocolate with our pinky out, and then we'd talk about like we could, like you were doing a wine tasting. It was like, ode of Bessie, you could just taste just a little bit. And like we were having so much fun with it. So
go on.
Probably all the farmers out there are like, shut up, JR. You're fired. Okay, so we already know Jana's going to say Dr. Pepper, so we won't ask her.
Diet Dr. Pepper.
Does the diet make a difference for you?
Yes, it means I can. What was that?
Jana, I used to drink Diet Dr. Pepper like every day also. And one time my son and I went to the drive up, and they got me a Dr. Pepper and a Diet Dr. Pepper, and I tasted it. I said, this is not diet. And they shouldn't have been.
The regular Cokes are a lot sweeter. That's why I drink Diet Coke, because it isn't as sweet. The 0 calorie is great, but I'm sure the chemicals that make it 0 calories are like pickling my inside. So I'm not convinced like that it's healthy because they throw the word diet in front of it.
But I like the flavor that comes through, because you want that flavor that's the Dr. Pepper flavor. But, my husband is the real addict. So he gets like Dr. Pepper flavored jelly beans, and he found Dr. Pepper flavored Peeps.
You can quit anytime.
It's amazing. Oh, yeah. He doesn't want to quit. So it's okay.
Mama didn't raise a quitter.
Exactly. But
okay, so
yeah, I do.
There's another way.
But
I wanted to tell you before, when you were talking about this, that if you go through Swish, you can go and they can add coconut. I love coconut to your Dr. Pepper.
Coconut and lime, also delicious.
I don't drink it anymore, just so you know. I don't, because it makes me too anxious. So I quit. Quit.
Okay. I mean, I could quit.
See, I'm not a quitter either, so
I'm a quitter. I quit.
I just don't want to. That's it.
Exactly.
Wow.
I don't want to. I do drink a lot of water and other things to offset it, because that was the deal that my doctor and I made, is that I get to have one little mug full, and so I fill things up in the morning, and it's not all the way full. It's about halfway full of ice, and then I put in my Dr. Pepper on top of that, and I kind of nurse it all through the day, and then everything else I have to drink water and other things that are slightly better for me, and that was the compromise, and so here we are.
So one of the people at the church the boy goes to, the youngest one, I made the joke about America runs on Dunkin', and his reply was, but Utah runs on Dr. Pepper.
That's true.
I think
Dr. Pepper and Diet Coke, that's pretty much the Utah way. It's true. They're wrong, but they like it.
So I've been teaching myself to cook, and there's a few food channels and that like do like recipes, and I'm told you guys have some unique recipes that are unique to Utah as well, that they were talking about the way they do like some of their burgers and stuff. We really ought to do the food cast, what we eat while we're reading, just to give us the excuse.
That would be fun.
We're gonna do that, Jana. We'll do that. Okay. All right.
Yep. Add it to the list. New episode.
When we first started, I was worried we'd run out of things to talk about, and the list that was like a page of 4 or 5 ideas for episodes is 12 pages now and growing, because now readers are sending us topics. So
I like it when the readers send us topics, because they come up with things that we're like, oh, why didn't we think of that? And suddenly we're off and running, and then the episodes tend to spawn from there.
So before we dive back into the book cave, I will say, speaking, dear listener to viewer, we do have a Discord that's up and running now that you can join, chat away with the authors that are frequent guests. Hopefully they'll start joining as well. We do have Miss Jana created for us a Google Doc. So if you want to volunteer to come on the show, and you don't have to be an author to come on the show. If you've got like, I don't know, it's my favorite book, let's talk about it. My favorite movie, let's talk about it. If it's spec fic, we're good. And if you want to suggest topics, but you don't want to come on because you're shy, that's cool too. We have Google links for that. I got to figure out how to share those. But if you reach out to me directly, I can get you the links. And then Jen and I will talk about, see how we can do that, if we can add that to our link tree as well.
We can put in the link tree, and we can pin them in the Discord. We can make the magic happen. We'll talk about that.
Pin it in the Discord, but you guys can have more of an active role going forward in what we talk about, and even come on and chat with us. That's cool too. So back to Book Cave. All right. So we talked about the why. You mentioned that you guys rate the books and kind of you're looking at content. what's your process for rating them on your end? And then I understand the My Book ratings, which is linked to you, is then the readers reviewing as well. Is that right?
Yeah.
The
Well,
authors actually rate the books.
Say that again. I'm sorry.
So the authors rate the books when they submit them to us because they know their book the best, right? And we check it over because sometimes like they're like, I don't have any swears. We'll look at the preview, we're like, well, you do.
Since there's F-bombs on the first page, technically, yes, you do. So that's the interesting thing is that we ask the authors to turn in their own ratings, and then we go through. This is my job, so I can speak to it. Is that there's a verification process. So every book that comes in, we check the cover, we check the blurb, because we really want you to put your best foot forward as an author. We want the readers to find really great covers and really great blurbs and other things. And sometimes, as much as we would like it not to be that case, we get some books in that it's like, that is really, really bad as far as it's bleeding. The cover is eye-numbingly terrible. And so we'll let authors know, hey, we couldn't accept this because of these reasons, and try to encourage them to do things so that they can then qualify, because it's really important that our readers get the very best that you have to offer. So we look at the blurbs, we look at the cover, and then we dig in and we look at the books. So if they're free books, we can download them, and we'll actually download them and read some of it, make sure that the prose is well written. Then we do checks for, how many swear words are there really? You don't have to be exact down to the last number, but there's a big difference between saying I have no swear words, and then we open it up, and like Rachel says, we have some that are 500 plus in a 60,000 word book, and it's like, well, that's a lot. So we do some spot checking. We also will check the reviews, because sometimes we'll read a review and it'll say, oh yeah, that was a really spicy, amazing sex scene, and we'll look at the author's rating and go, why didn't you put that in there? Because again, we want to make love matches, and I think sometimes our authors, and I know we're mostly talking about readers, but for our authors out there, we don't want you to underrate your books or overrate your books. We want to make the right matches, and we can only do that if you're honest about what's in the book. And we've had authors write us and say, well, I didn't want to talk about that because I didn't want to turn people off my book. And it's like, it's a worse turn off if they read it and they're surprised, because not only are they mad at you, but they're mad at us. And Rachel and Katya get those emails, and I've seen some of them, and people get really, really upset when they're surprised. These are not good surprises. So we want that honesty that says, yeah, this is what's in it, because that way we can get you the readers who love exactly what you're writing, instead of the readers who are going to be unpleasantly surprised. So we do checking. Anything that's incorrect, then I fix the ratings. We make sure that everything looks good so that it really does give the book its very best step forward. We double check all the links, because sometimes it's easy to have a link that you've grabbed the wrong thing, or occasionally someone will grab the paperback link where we need the ebook link. So we double check all of that for you, because again, we want that well represented. We also have an option where you can where authors will be putting out their entire series. So they'll say book 1 is on sale, but they want to display all the others. So then we'll also go and double check all their series links and make sure that that looks really, really good, because we really want that love match. We want the readers to find the books that they want, and we want the authors to find those readers. So we do go through a process there, and then we let the authors get to choose. They'll say, these are the days that my book is on sale, and this is the day I'd really like for you guys to send it out. And I look at the calendar and I try to slot it in. And then when I mess it up, Katya jumps in and says, no, you can't do that. And then she fixes everything. She's our senior editor. She's my boss. So then she fixes things that need to be fixed, so that every day we get a good set of books that go out, and we have a balanced offering so that our readers are always getting something new, and not getting 30 books on one day and then no books, and then 300 books and then no books. She does a great job of balancing it out across our calendar. Did I miss anything, ladies?
That was good.
I think you did really well. On the occasion that we have had readers say, hey, this did have this X whatever in it, or this other thing in it, then we do go and change the rating, and we make a note, and we say, hey, this was, and so that next time it comes through and the author does again choose the other rating, usually they won't, because they'll see it's been adjusted, but then it won't happen again.
And we
And we
serve
don't
them
blacklist
greatly.
authors for that because
Yeah, we
most of the
don't.
time they don't mean to.
Well, there's
It's
plenty of
that it's
authors.
oversight or whatever, but we
If
do
you write
remind
enough books, like at a certain point in time, like that was 3 series ago. What do you mean? I don't even know the main character's name anymore.
Yeah,
them. Exactly.
but they know
Exactly.
it better
So
than we do.
Right. Okay, so 2 questions. One, obviously, like you want the readers to know what's in it. Will you advertise books that have mature content, or are you trying to keep the content that you advertise as family friendly? Because obviously you're rating everything, but is there a limit on what you won't even put on your site?
We did you want to answer that?
Well, I was going to say the only limit that we have, because the authors can, all the readers can sign up for what they want. The only one thing that we have is covers. You cannot have a cover that is not something, family friendly. No, I'm not saying you can't. You can have a guy with no, shirt on or whatever, but you're not going to have 2 people looking naked in a bed. We're just not going to put that on. And
Right.
so, but
I know you're international, and I know because it affects authors who write newsletters, and I know what you can send via email in the Europe is makes it like it's a lot of hoops you have to dance through, and so trying to keep everybody happy, I know that's got to make your job miserable. It's almost like you might even need 2 lists.
the FCC has things about that too in the States. So we just have we just have limits that it's like if it's an explicit cover, we just have to reject it because we can't send it out on our email list. We'll get in trouble.
Okay.
And so that's one of those that, again, it's not our rule. It is that we want to be able to keep sending emails out, and there are rules all around the world about that, and where the lines are, where they judge that it's pornography. And so we err on way this side of the line because we don't want to run into that, and we don't want our authors really running into that because it gets us all in trouble.
But there is one thing I do want to say is we want to encourage children to read and parents and children to use our site, and we don't want them going onto our site and seeing all those kinds of books. So in a way, it is also us, because we care about our readers, all of the readers, and we didn't in the beginning do the what do we call them, the adult
plus.
They're
and
erotic.
that is something that has more than a certain amount of love scenes, or whatever, and so but then we decided, we don't really want to quit that because, some people might just really want that, and we don't want to be the judge. And so we do have that now, and we've had it for years, but people can sign up for it or not.
So when you
click it off, they can. Like, I don't really want G books because those are boring to me unless they're picture books, I mean, I say G.
It's true.
All ages. I mean, all ages.
So when readers sign up, they get to select what genres do they want and what ratings do they want. So they can say, I want all books in romance altogether. So we list out, here's the different categories that we have, here's the different ratings, and that way you can mix and match so that if you really don't like thrillers, then you don't want to get our thriller options, then you just don't choose that. So I've got all the science fiction, all the nonfiction, all these other things, and then I can say anything that's moderate plus and less, or all books or whatever. So readers really can curate the experience as to what books we send to them, and then if they come to the site, they can actively look for other books that may not have been in their curated email.
So go ahead.
Sorry. We also have a thing that we've added, in the last few years it's called also contains, because sometimes there are trigger things like, some women don't want to read about assault, for reasons. Some people don't want to read, or some people are maybe looking for a certain thing like infertility issues, and so we have a thing where they're not really warnings, but they say, hey, it also contains this. So if you're looking for that, then you can find it. If you don't want it, then you're warned. Because there are trigger things, child, when maybe a child dies, or there's some, abuse of a child or something, or what are some of the other ones?
Romance and a non-romance.
Yeah, or romance and a non-romance.
Just a wide variety of things.
Yeah, so we tried to narrow it even more so that people can really not say, hey, I love that book, except for then the child died and I was really mad at you guys. We don't want that. We don't want anybody to be upset. We want them to be happy.
And that's one of my favorite things about what we do is that we really work on listening to the readers and listening to when they say, I would really like to know more about this, or why don't you tell me it's about audiobooks? Why don't you have this, that, and the other? And we listen to both the readers and the authors, and we try to continually change the site and adjust things. So we're providing more and more information that's what they want. And I've been with Rachel since, gosh, almost the beginning.
Yeah.
It's been a long time that we've been working together on this. And I love to have seen how the site continually grows with the audience in order to say, well, what is it that you need, authors, and what is it that you want, readers, and how can we do our best to kind of fill that gap there and be able to give you those things? Because like even coming up with the swear words, it was like, well, what one person considers a swear versus somebody else is something else. And so we had to boil down a list of what are the most common swear words that our readers are interested in knowing. And then we have the list. And that way, when authors sometimes come back and they say, well, I don't consider that a swear word. It's like, well, but the majority of our reader list does. So that's what we need you to bring in. And I love that that was something that was always part of Rachel's vision, was that the site grows and changes as our audience needs it to. So we're fulfilling those needs.
So you mentioned curse words, so I'll ask you, one of the things that became popular, and I'm not a sci-fi historian, so I could have happened sooner. Don't hate me, dear listener. But one of the things I noticed from Battlestar Galactica, the reboot onward, instead of the F word, everyone was frack, F-R-A-K-K, for those at home. Now, do you count? And then everyone else started doing their own fake cuss words. Firefly did the Chinese cuss words to get around those censorship laws. Do you treat fake cuss words in the same way you would real cuss words, where you list that, or you just how is that handled in your site?
We do not count those at all.
Okay.
Mostly because how would we know? We'd have to read the entire book and decide, is that a cuss word on, especially with science fiction and fantasy, is that a cuss word on their planet, and is it going to upset anybody in the universe if they actually hear it? Because I have fantasy swearing, and Dark One's blood is probably not going to upset anybody in the real world.
Probably like dang it or something.
Yeah.
I mean,
exactly. So
yeah,
we sometimes we don't know what would be offensive in a fantasy world, and we try not to choose for them, because it would take way too many hours for me to comb through all the books and try to go, well, is that equivalent to the F-bomb? Is that equivalent to? I don't want to do those kind of equivalencies. Life is too short.
I get that. I just like when guests think I'm going to read their book before I'm like, oh, child, there's just not that much time in a day. I do too many interviews. Okay. So the next question, you mentioned that you deal with violence and you kind of want to know, how do you handle that then in nonfiction? So for instance, there's been a slew of people, Global War on Terror, Iraq, early war veterans, and Afghanistan, that are now writing memoirs. So obviously those are going to be about violent things. How would those kinds of books, and a lot of history that's written from the first person perspective is going to be that way, right? Because nobody wants to read, I had a salad today. They want to know about the exciting bits, right? So how do you handle when you're dealing with nonfiction, the violence and such, because it just is what happened, even when it's not pleasant.
It would still get rated just like a fiction book. So we've had biographies come in being adult because like they were war biographies and the violence was extended and gruesome.
Right.
And like, okay, well, it's an adult violence, which is fine. That's what you wrote. So,
Now, when you deal with those biographies, because biographies do tend to have pictures included in them. It's not uncommon. And so sometimes the pictures themselves can be objectionable. Do you address that when you're doing the rating? Is that something you take into effect?
I would hope the author does, but I don't read the whole book. So
okay, that's fair.
Well, we do have, the questions are very detailed. Like we ask, is there nudity? Is there, and we say nudity in a sexual setting or just brief nudity, or, and it goes on and on. So if you're talking about nudity and that sort of thing.
The violence is like
and then
on screen,
right? And the love scenes, the intimacy, that goes on and on. Are we just kissing? This is just a peck? And it's kind of detailed, Okay. But that's one good thing, is once that book has been rated, the author never has to rate it again. It's just rated, it's done, and they can just go and every time they have a sale, they can tell us, and we can send it out to our readers. And we get new readers every single day. We have lots of giveaways also on our right now. We have a big giveaway that readers can.
So this is
sign
going to air on Friday because normally we don't
Okay.
do such a quick turnaround, but this is unlike anything we've done. So I thought it'd be kind of cool to get it to the reader sooner. So is any of that going to be at the big giveaways going to be in effect on Friday?
Yeah.
Okay. Can you tell us about that then?
I think Katya, can you address that a little bit more?
Yeah, it's a $250 book spree giveaway. So basically, you get a $250 gift card, and it's a 6-month run. So I think it finishes in June or July. So we've got time.
Yeah, we just started it at the first of the year.
Yeah. So you can enter, and then by sharing it, your special URL, you get more entries. So
Okay.
we always
We
have
can give you a link for that for the show notes.
Please do. I'll throw that in the show notes. Obviously, I have like all the main links, but not the specifics. So if you could get that to me, we'll throw that in there, dear listener. You can check it out and sign up and find good books for you, for your kids. I saw some disturbing stats today about how few people read anymore. And so that's just something we got to fix because it's good for your soul.
It is.
Yeah, it is.
So is there anything, and that's the other, so one of the things I did notice is you hear all the time that this group doesn't read or that group doesn't read. And one of the reasons people say that is because books just aren't written for certain demographics, be it young boys or, marginalized communities or whatever have you. So this is the good thing about a site like yours is you help them find books that would speak to them, which is, when you say find the right readers, find the right books. Is there anything about my book cave, and all the links will be in the show notes, that we didn't go over you think needs to be covered for the listeners and the viewers at home to know?
Let's see. I think we've pretty much covered everything. Oh, well, one thing, we have some really great blogs. We have an author blog and a reader blog that we're constantly putting up fun stuff to read, about the book, about books, and about writing. We have two completely different blogs, and I believe we've given you the links for those.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, we post a lot there, and it's kind of fun for people. And besides, we also have the giveaway. If you just click on the reader tab, it will. I guess you're going to already give that link as well. But yeah. So that's it. We just want to connecting the right readers with the right books. That's how we say it. And we just and
we're really fun.
Yeah,
come to Instagram and Facebook and talk to us.
So let's talk about the last lead. So you said you're fun. Right now, we've talked about the site as almost static, but one of the things that makes something fun is community. So what, in that respect, with engagement of readers with each other, is involved in your setup? You said Instagram. I guess you have community there. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, we post every day. We post all sorts of things. We post our book deals. We post funny memes. We post questions to have people start discussing. And we get a lot of comments, especially on Facebook, people talking back and forth, and it's really fun. It makes me laugh every time I go in to respond and read. I'm like, you guys are awesome.
Okay, so it's mostly your Facebook group. Do you have a Discord, or I don't know what other programs are out there? So anything like that for
hey, we should start a Discord. No, we don't.
Discord.
We did Twitter for a long time and had a lot of followers, but we just didn't feel like the book readers really loved that. And so
I did open
we do have also on our site, actually, we have author pages where authors will upload their photographs and a little bit of special things about them, and they can receive reviews and stuff from readers there, and the authors will approve them, and they can talk back and forth a little bit that way. And so if you want to tell an author something, you can post there. But
all right. We've got a cat sighting. That must mean it's almost time to go. Gianna, did we miss anything before we wrap this
up? He's down there attacking my knees because he can. And he's a pest, and his brother is on the other side, and so I'm stuck in this tug of war between two not kittens anymore. Will you two get out? Oh my goodness!
This is why dogs are superior to cats. There, I said
it. I have a dog too, there, but she's the poor thing. So funny stories on the pets. She is a sheepdog poodle cross, which means that she gets really, really shaggy, but it's curly shaggy. And so 3 times a year we take her in and she gets groomed and gets shaved down and everything. And we always think, okay, mid-March will be fine because by then maybe the snow will stop. And so today was her day. And of course we get a huge storm with 3 inches of snow and it's freezing cold. And here I go in to pick up my dog who is now naked. And she's just looking at me like, what in the heck, Mom? What do you mean we're going out in the snow? No, yeah, all of my warm coat was left behind back there. So I had to put her, she has a sweater. She has a little sweatshirt on it and it's got Pete's on the back and it says, I licked it, it's mine. And so she's been wandering around in her little sweater because I got her shaved on a day when it is absolutely freezing, and then next week it's supposed to be in the 70s. So go figure. But anyway, what was your question, JR? I totally missed it.
When I was a toddler, the I licked it, it's mine rule was totally in effect. So
it's true. It's that there are some real truths to the I licked it, it's mine.
This is true. So you would think I own the world at this point, but nobody honored that. All right. So is there anything that we didn't cover, Jana, that you think we need to before we wrap this puppy up?
Oh, I think that we've covered all the things. Mostly we just want to encourage everybody, especially the readers, come and check the books out. Come and check out the ratings. You can go to mybookratings.com if you don't want to come to the Book Cave site itself. I don't see why, because they're both awesome. So if you just want a rating for a book and you're not worried about whether it's on sale or not, you can search on that page. You can add your own ratings. We're adding all the time. So sometimes it's the books that are coming through and that we're using for sales and that kind of thing. But also, we've had a thing where it's like, let's go through all the classics and all the things that we've read just as readers, because we're all voracious. There we go. I can speak. We all are big readers, so it's dumping in all of those things. Every time I read something, I go and rate it on Goodreads or in Amazon, and then I dump it into my book ratings so that we can really spread that, because it's so helpful to other readers who really want to find those right books. So I think we've covered it all, but you really, really should have Rachel back to talk about her science fiction, or her urban fantasy rather, and her science fiction now. So you'd have fun. It'd be a kick.
So as we bring this close, obviously all the links to My Book Cave will be in the show notes. Is there anywhere you want to send them for you personally? Katya, are you content just to drive them all towards the website?
Go to Book Cave. Woo!
All right. And Rachel, I will also throw your Rachel Nunez books on the social media, because if authors want to check the clean romance stuff out, they can. And then we will have you back for your alter ego. But does your alter ego get to live in a cool bat cave?
Yes.
Dragon cave.
Well, a dragon cave. It's always I don't have dragons in my book, but you know what? I've been really wanting to write a dragon book. So
that would be cool.
So it's probably coming.
I've recently written dragon stuff, and it was interesting. Jan and I wrote a short story in a shared game lit universe. I'd never written dragons before recently, so it's
nice.
It's kind of cool. It's like dinosaurs, but fantasy version of it. So I can kind of go with it.
And scary in that case.
All right, then, dear listener, you can find us on our Linktree, linktr.ee, Linktree/Blasters and Blades podcast. Again, Linktree/Blasters and Blades podcast, where we link to all the things: the BitChutes, the Rumbles, the YouTubes, the TikToks, the Twitters, the Spotify, the Discord. We have a Facebook group and Facebook page. We have our email, blastersandbladespodcast@gmail.com. Again, blastersandbladespodcast@gmail.com. For professional purposes only, people save the shenanigans from Madam Stabby Stab on the Instagram, Twitter, and the email. You can support the show by going to buymeacoffee.com/author J.R. Handley. Again, buymeacoffee.com/author J.R. Handley. Be sure to put in the comment section that it's for the podcast, and I promise I will keep my co-hosts duly caffeinated. They will drink that coffee brand coffee till they float away on a river of Java goodness. And then we will film it and get very rich selling that film. But
oh gosh, do that. That's lots easier than selling books. Goodness.
It sounds like it. I mean, like every vet bro gets out, they either make T-shirts or coffee companies. So I feel like I missed the boat. But anyway, I forgot, because we've been talking about book reviews all night, and I almost forgot the close. So this is where I will remind you, dear listeners, to please be kind and speak your minds on the reviewing platforms. Your reviews help the right readers find the right book. So do your part. Rumor has it, when an author gets his 100th review, he gets a unicorn. And I, for one, would like to know what a unicorn steak tastes like, people. I wonder if it has sparkles in it.
No.
I don't know. You don't know. We'll find out. And if you-
Gosh.
I think I just made a friend and lost it all in one evening. You, if you use the link in the show notes for the coffee brand coffee, the code podcast grunts, you get 10% off. We get a little bit of a kickback. It's a win-win. It is not a drop shipping operation. People know they roast that coffee here in the continental United States, and now they ship international. So do your part, people. Shop local. And with that, I would thank you for spending some of your precious time with us. For my crazy co-host, I am J.R. Handley, and this was the Blasters and Blades podcast. We'll be back next week at the same time. We'll indulge our love of nerd culture, cheesy jokes, and all things that go boom. All right, thanks for coming on, Katya, Rachel. We appreciate your visiting, and we'll have you back for another episode.
Right.
And with
Thanks
that,
for
we're
having
gonna
us.
wait for it. Yeah.